you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Delighted and honored that you're here. And I actually just got into watching the video on the myths of marijuana that Jeannie was talking about, and we're in the process of working to get it converted so it will go on the site. It's actually a video that we used to use in our educational work in the social justice system in Albany, Georgia, back many decades ago. Social services, pardon me. And the man passed away actually in the early 90s. His video is about 40-some years old. I'm not sure exactly. And I just got a part of it to convert. Was able to listen to the first few minutes of it. Remembering his presentation, this man was a school teacher who decided to become a physician and became a pediatrician. And then he became a psychiatrist. And he worked in the school systems in Ohio. And the video, actually, I'm not remembering exactly what it cost us, but I think back then to buy it from his organization way back in the 70s, the dollar was worth just a little bit more than it is, or a little bit more than it is today. In any event, I think if I remember correctly, it cost us something like $1,000 to buy the use of that video. Fortunately, or unfortunately, his organization is no longer around since he passed, but I did communicate with his son and got permission to continue to use the video. But it's interesting, he starts out, he's actually doing a presentation as a psychiatrist. He worked within the school system for many years, and he starts out by sharing that he was acquainted with many children from kindergarten, the first time they started school, all the way up into 8th, 9th grade. And when they got into the 7th, 8th, 9th grade, he started to notice their lives falling apart. Became rather concerned and found out that the ones that he was watching do that had started on marijuana, but he thought, it's just marijuana, that's not a big deal. And then after really tapping in and seeing the number of kids whose lives were being, I guess you could say, compromised, if not destroyed, he began to do some research, actually formed a foundation to carry on research and do brain imaging and such with, especially with developing brains. And one of the questions he asked, and unfortunately the video failed. We've got some work to do on it, but I started to watch it just about an hour ago. But he starts out with he's in a city somewhere in California in a high school, and a bunch of kids in the class. He starts with a question of, how many think if you take, we talk about PCP or heroin or that pot is the least destructive drug of them all. And he repeats that, something like 90% of the class puts their hand up. And then he asks a really interesting question. He says, how many of you are using? And the kids say, well, probably 75% of us. And he says, how many of you know 5 kids that have got burnout, which in his language would be organic brain damage from pot? And pretty much everybody in class puts their hand up. And then he really emphasizes that question by saying, how many of you know a kid with diabetes? So unfortunately, a lot of these kids would know because of the explosion of diabetes since then, and maybe pot is part of that problem. But he says, how many know 5 kids with diabetes? No. How many know 5 blind kids? No. How many know 5 that are in wheelchairs? No. How many know 5 with kidney damage? No. How many know 5 with heart damage? No. And he says, isn't it interesting that more kids with organic brain damage from pot than all the other diseases combined, and you still think it's okay? And the brainwash that's happened, and the brainwash has happened because of money. It's not much different if you've ever read the article that I've posted on my Facebook page about aliens coming to Earth and being shocked at humans who have this special cabinet with this special fluid in it that they reserve only for their best friends, their closest friends, and their families. and it's a celebratory fluid called alcohol. And then the article goes on to talk about how 3.3 million people a year die from alcohol abuse in the world. And, I mean, I go into the statistics of how many rapes, how many murders, how many police interactions, blah, 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 blah. And pot, we've been brainwashed that pot's a soft drug that doesn't mean anything, the same way as, most everybody thinks alcohol, so what? But if you really start looking, you go past the brainwash on both subjects. The statistics are astoundingly disturbing. In any event, we'll get that hooked up, and you'll be able to go to the page, and I'm sure Jeannie has already put the page in her notes. There are a couple of other videos. There's a psychiatrist from, let me think if I get my brain back to, she's doing modern research on pot, and she's got statistics on and double-blind research with kids using and not using, and particularly with developing brains, and the disaster that it is on cognitive development and cognitive performance. So it might be something that y'all might want to take a look at, and if you've been trained or taught and or have decided that pot is for you, you might want to just really take a look at it and see if that's really a wise decision. Because certainly in the same way that alcohol's been promoted as, it's no big deal, it's, you could go, it's a big deal. Big deal. Really something, and of course when you look at both substances, why do people use them? Because the brains they have, the minds they have, the nervous systems they have, the bodies they have are so filled with pain that they desperately want an anesthetic. That's the only reason an intelligent person would use alcohol. Oh, well, it was just at a party, it was just to relax. So I go, excuse me, here's the only reason anyone would ever use one of those substances. There is so much pain and unresolved trauma within the mind, the body, and the nervous system that they want an anesthetic to escape. So that's my offering, and I offer that, do some forgiveness work and get your brain back, and difference of night and day. So there's a starting point for our conversation, and I thank the young lady who opened that conversation for us by letting us know that she was having some challenges with her son, who was unfortunately using pot more than just regularly. And she also had a couple of other questions, or actually I'm going to read the comments that she made and just kind of generally address them. They're not overly, by the way, one of the pieces of information that the second research that I was talking about, and I'm not recalling her name right now, but the links are on the website. One of the things she points out is back in the 60s, the average content, THC content of the pot smokers' weed was about 5 to 6%. Today, the average content is 18% and upwards of over 90% THC. So it might be, just interesting stuff to look at. In any event, the question, it wasn't exactly a question, but the comment that was made in the form of, I would like some support in this regard. Give me just a moment here. I accidentally disconnected my headset. So the comments that I had, or that I wanted to read, and excuse me, I couldn't keep them on the screen with my other information, so I'm having to look it up. And it's just a general sort of situation along with her son that involves the fact that his father had left home some time ago. And so, question, am I right to think about my husband? I've noticed that my son's behavior is similar to his dad's. I maintain the status of married with his father. In other words, she hasn't divorced, in order to try to maintain a relationship for the sake of the son. He's been gone, the husband's been gone for 7 years, has a girlfriend, and their relationship a little bit. She's happy with her son, who unfortunately has started to grow and utilize pot, and is watching her son's life become very much like his dad's. And it sounds like there is a lot of negativity, a lot of negative emotion she mentions, and she would like to see the marriage come back together so that her son has a father in the home, but doesn't look like that's something that's happening anytime soon. And so she's saying, I have many issues about it. Speaks about his unwillingness to engage in the work. And then she asks the question, am I wrong to think like this? And my offering in the case would be, it sounds like you have offered the tools to your husband, who's in another relationship now, and it sounds like the goal of healing, one of the things that happens, if you remember in the Healing Through Relationships workshop, we talk about the file folder effect. In psychology, the file folder effect is talked about as files that fire together, wire together. And so when two different files in the mind wire simultaneously, let's do an example of that. There are two files, information is stored in the mind in files, so to speak. And there are two files that I know everybody who's listening to us has brain cells for. You've each got a file on these two topics. But unless you've heard me use this example before, you've probably never wired them together in your mind. But now we're going to wire them for you. And there's nothing you can do to stop it except, well, you could turn off or, walk away from the phone and not listen. But if you're going to continue to listen, you can't unwire it, and they're just linked. That's just the way it is. So I'm going to just invite you for a moment to not think about a purple alligator. So don't think, I know you've got a file on alligators and you've got a file on purple, and you probably never thought of one before, but now those two files are wired together. And if I started my show tomorrow, and I said, by the way, everybody, don't think about a purple, what would fire in your mind? What just fired just now? Now, if 25 years from now you were on the show, you dialed into Mind Shifters Radio, and I said, now everybody, don't think about a purple, something would happen in your mind. There would be a resonance. And although you may not recall what that link is, because in 25 years, if you've never reinforced that link, it's decayed away until it's very weak. However, in the unconscious, purple and alligator are still wired together and will in some way influence the perceptual construct of your mind 25 years later. So my offering, if you think about that file folder effect as we talk about it in the Healing Through Relationships workshop, if something painful and unresolved in me, even if I'm not conscious of it, if you happen to say a word that resonates, an old painful experience that happened in my life when I was 2, and I'm not conscious of that, and I make a negative association with what you're saying or doing, let's say you're angry, then I hook that angry perception of you up to that 2-year-old experience, and now those files are wired together. And now, for me to experience the pain, the unresolved pain of the 2-year-old, all I have to do is be in your presence. Today, tomorrow, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now. And if I don't allow myself to become conscious of and become responsible for the pain that I'm experiencing at this moment, then in your presence, I'm going to experience that little blip of pain from when I was 2, just by the fact that those 2 files in my mind, you and that pain from being 2, are wired together. Now, if that happens, as often does, because people, by the fact that we're born into this world, we're born into the one world religion of blame. Everybody born into this world, maybe I can't say everybody, but virtually everybody is a card-carrying member of the Church of Blame, the one world religion. And it takes effort and consciously doing one's work to leave that church. It's automatic for most every mind on the planet. When they're experiencing pain that they don't want to experience, when they're experiencing pain that they have not resolved, to wire it into their mind's perceptual constructs of whoever is present when they're experiencing that pain. And then they become repelled, not by that person, but by the fact that that person resonates what they've wired into their brain's image. And this happens with spouses all the time. That's why it's pretty traditional. People say, well, we just grew in different directions. That's why we're divorcing. Baloney, you grew in different directions. You hooked up your unresolved unconscious pain to your brain's image of your partner, and you were repelled, and repelled a little more, and repelled a little more. And if your partner was doing the same, you were repelled still more. If you weren't doing your work, then there comes a point where, we've got a very powerful saying in our culture. It goes, the honeymoon is over. What does that mean? I've reached the point where the links in my mind to you as my partner are more powerfully connected to my pain than to joy, relationship, and pleasure. And people who don't do their work end up, they say, we stay together, we're still together after 60 years. Well, the majority of those people divorced 40, 50 years ago on the psychic level, when that tipping point of linking to unconscious, unresolved pain became stronger than the link to the presence of love. If two people start off on the same foot and are using the tools, this wiring of things is going to happen, but if each individual does their work, then the linking to the presence of joy and healing and aliveness is strengthened by that, and the relationship becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, rather than linking to the pain, the unresolved unconscious pain that becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So my offering would be, I suspect, after 7 years in another relationship, that inviting him to step back in and do the work that motivated him to leave the relationship in the first place is probably going to be a fairly tough challenge. Oftentimes people who go into great deals of trauma and separate, and they don't see each other for 10 years, and they come back together, and the remembrance, the links to pain have kind of decayed away, and the remembrance of the connectedness and the fondness becomes stronger, and so the attraction is there. And once again, people who don't have the tools, don't or won't do the work to heal, oftentimes go back into that relationship, and it's long before divorce happens again. So my offering to you would be, with that question, that you continue to do the work that disconnects and the links to your internal pain to your husband. And more generally, with women, it tends to be their relationships with men, and with men, it tends to be their relationships with women, that you continue to free yourself from that unconscious pain and those links, so that if the space opens where he decides he wants to step in, you'll be more powerfully connected to love to be able to support the renewal of that relationship. And or when it's time to let the attachments go with him, that you'll be a more powerfully present space of love, having healed your own issues, your own unconscious pain, so that should you choose to enter into a new relationship, you'll be able to do it much differently than what you did with your former. So that would be my offering on that point. So once again, I'm just getting to the notes again. When the screen went off on my phone, that page disappeared. So give me a moment to just get back there and follow up.
While you're looking for that, I'll just say that I was able to get the longer, hour-long version of that drug tapes, Marijuana Myths and Misconceptions, downloaded and then re-uploaded to YouTube. So that is now available.
Already? Honey, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just glad you didn't ask me a question while I was trying to do that.
Well, that's so awesome. Thank you for your skill in this arena of computers. That's awesome.
I've got the other links for the Stacy Gruber, where she testifies before Congress, and then also the 60-minute presentation at McMaster University. So I've got those already on that page as well. So the link to that page is going to be in the notes for today, and we'll also have it under frequently asked questions, forgiveness tools. I'll stick it out there in several places, watch and listen for free. So just look around on the website. I try to put those kind of things in various places. You can always, if you can't remember where to find it, there's a little, like a magnifying glass up in the top right corner. You can click on that and just type in marijuana or, addiction or whatever, and everywhere that we've got it mentioned will pop up. So that's the easiest way if you can't remember where to find it.
Awesome. And so the page on the website now, is that just whyagain.org//marijuana?
It's marijuana and other anesthetics. But if they type in marijuana, it'll pop up.
Whyagain.org marijuana will take it there.
Yep.
But I have a different question. If they type in whyagain.org//marijuana, will that take them to it?
No, but I can create something to make it forward to there.
Okay. That'd be cool. Then it's an easy remember for anybody anytime to connect with.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So I'm back to the notes. So she's asking if I'll talk about this on the radio show, and she's saying that her primary purpose in life is her healing. And one of the things that you might want to do, and I know that the English is not your first language, that's why some of this I'm reading in a little bit of a sketchy way, but one of the things that you might want to do if your son is good with English is you might want to download the Forgiveness app. You don't tell me in notes just how many years your son has been circling the sun, so I don't know what age he is. But you might want to take him into the app and do the Dragon Klingon game, introduce him to that. That might be a way to open a gentle conversation around forgiveness. As I understand what you'd written, the tendency is for him to go into a similar state to that of his father, when you try to bring up some of these issues. So the Dragon Klingon game in the Forgiveness app, so if you go to your app store on your phone and type in Heartland, Heartland, Aramaic Forgiveness, then download the app, and there are 2 different versions of the worksheet in the app, and there's another application or another version called the Dragon Klingon game, and it's basically for kids to teach them forgiveness. And so it walks through, teach them awareness, how to be consciously aware of their own emotions and such. So it's a powerful way to introduce kids to the whole concept. So that might be another possibility. And then, of course, those 3 video links might be useful to look at as you go to whyagain.org/marijuana and other anesthetics.
Oh, I've already changed it, so all they have to do is put marijuana.
Oh, sweet, awesome. Thank you, sweet. You're amazing. You are amazing. So that's kind of the scoop on marijuana. So now that video is available, and as I say, when we first started to use it, we paid him a fee of $1,000. I think that was it. It might have been more, but I know it was a goodly chunk of money to be able to use it. And since he passed, I communicated with his son, and his son did give us permission to go ahead and make it available. So as we do with everything that we do, we make it available free. So it's out there. Give it a listen. It's good education. And beyond that, Miss E, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
No, it is all quiet. So we have 30 minutes. If somebody has a question, press 1. Put your hand up. There's no waiting. We've got plenty of time.
Cool. So if you're out there in listener land, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number, you'll be listening to the show directly. And then if you have a question for us or a thought, if you push 1, that raises a hand in the control panel, and we'll be having a conversation. And we've got about half an hour left to continue those conversations. So if you have a thought for us, how can we support you? What's on your mind? Again, 563. Go ahead, sweetie.
Someone had asked if the video was going to be available, if the Skype meeting around the Aramaic had gotten recorded, and we haven't got that yet. We don't know yet whether they recorded it or not. We were guests in that Skype meeting, so we weren't doing the hosting of it.
Yeah, I put a call in to ask the question, but I got no answer, so I left a message. So hopefully he'll get back to us, and we'll be able to get that put on our website as well.
Maybe
I don't know how many.
There's no hand up yet. Announce about what's coming up maybe this summer.
Yeah, let's talk about this summer. It looks like we have we haven't confirmed it 100% yet, but we have a group that wants to use Heartland for a teacher's training type workshop for the work of Rudolf Steiner. And if you're familiar with Waldorf education, that's Rudolf Steiner's work. So it looks like we're going to be opening Heartland. I hadn't planned on doing that, but this group wants to get together and do that. And so we're looking at, if they confirm that, then we're probably going to do about a 2-week work week process. You know, many of you over the years have come to Heartland and done either an intensive or done work week with us. So we're going to do that, where we'll bring people together in the at Heartland, and this will probably be somewhere in around mid-July for a 2-week period to, the center's been closed for 3 years now, around 4 years, and so to just get the property in shape, get things cleaned up and ready to go, we're looking at perhaps plugging in a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive. And what I'm thinking, because of COVID, we were not going to open, but what I'm thinking is that we'll make it a requirement that everyone test, and then we have a friend, you've heard us talk about Dr. John Lawrence, and he has a nasal spray that is really very powerful at keeping nasal passages free and clear of any kind of virus or bacteria or anything else. And it's a fairly strong spray, but I'm thinking that maybe we'll make part of the attendance, each person will get a bottle of that spray, and we'll ask people to use it regularly so it's as safe as we can possibly be, so that everybody would be tested prior to arriving, that we'd make it a requirement that everybody do a test and show up with a result that shows they have a clean test. And then we'll use that product, and so it looks like we'll do, and then maybe a 9-day, why is this happening to me again? Or if we get enough requests, we had spoken about doing a 20-week teacher training. That's normally a 16-day intensive at Heartland. We could perhaps even do the 16-day teacher training if we've got a request from enough people who want to attend the live workshop. So I'll leave that in everybody's hands if you're interested to get back to me if you've got my number or email, and or drop Jeannie a note, JEANIE at whyagain.org. If you drop her a note and give us your name and phone number and indicate what you're interested in, then if we get enough interest, then maybe we'll go ahead and do a live teacher training. And we're still looking at, we've had a couple of requests that we do that via Zoom, and so we're still looking at how that timing might work out. So if you're interested in participating in any of that, and if you happen to be interested in Steiner education in the Waldorf method, and I don't have all the details, we don't actually have that confirmed. We're kind of like at the 90% point. They've said, yeah, we're planning to go ahead and do it. They had to go back to their people and confirm with them. But if somebody's interested in that, I suspect they would probably make room in their Steiner meeting for people to join as well. So Steiner's one of the educational systems that's out there, Waldorf education, that's kind of a parallel to Maria Montessori's work, Montessori education. So some similarities, but a different philosophy of energy and life and healing and such. So that's kind of what's popping up for this summer. Unfortunately, Jeannie will be staying here with baby and dad as I go and do that. So we'll just see how it all unfolds. And beyond that, if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind? (563-999-3581). We've got 25 minutes. And we have lots on our plate. So if we don't, I'm complete with everything that I wanted to share today. So if we don't have anybody that has a question for us, then I'm going to be ready to say, let's get on with our other projects for the day and let our conversation. I'd much rather continue with anyone who's got a question or thought or something they'd like to share. But if nobody has a hand up or nobody's interested in continuing the conversation, then I think for today we'll let the show go. What do you think, Jeannie? Do you have anything else in mind?
I don't have it. I just checked to see if I had gotten any questions from anybody, and I have not, so I don't have anything else either.
Okay. Well, let's just say thank you to everybody for joining us, and we're going to move on and take care of the errands that we need to do. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Blessings.